What is up on a Thursday night? Thank you for coming on by the bar to hang out here before Pats Jets. We always appreciate every single one of you. And before we get started, before I ask you what you're drinking and tell you what I'm drinking tonight, Terry Grant stops by with a $100 super chat. She walks into the bar. She puts down a hunch. She walks out. Not sure I can make it live, but go Patriots. Terry, I'm sure you will catch this on demand. Can't say enough thank yous. I appreciate you every single time. Your generosity, your support, swing it on by consistently. So thank you for the $100 super chat. A little couple weeks before Turkey Day, $100. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate you. All right, so what are you drinking? Marilyn jumps in and she says that she found the winter white ale from Sam Adams, so she's going to be having that. We had a conversation last week about Sam Adams winter white ale. I have it at my bar in Virginia Beach. I find it to be a great beer. And as a matter of fact, Marilyn, great minds think alike. It is a Thursday night with the Patriots playing. I had to have a Sam Adams. I've already had Oktoberfest on the show, so I went with a Sam Adams winter white ale. The color throws it off. You can not see it. You can see through it. But that is the Sam Adams winter white ale, a 5.7 ABV. So I'm drinking it with you tonight, Marilyn. Cheers to all of you. And again, thanks for joining us on this Thursday night. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to get through. I want to get through that first sip, however. All right. So let's start with story number 5. And story number 5, and by the way, Brian jumps in and says a Sierra celebration. He's drinking. Vin is drinking. I saw his comment earlier. A Coke. Go Pats, go Bees. Yes, a double shot on this Thursday night in New England. And Chris Chapman, wine, getting ready for Thursday Night Football. Kind of crazy. Bruins and Patriots going for 8 straight wins. All right, story number 5. Travis Hunter. He's done for the year. LCL surgery, and he should be ready for OTAs in 2026. But here's the question that I ask all of you, and you let me know how you feel about it. Should Jacksonville change their approach with Travis Hunter? Would this injury, if you were the Jaguars, would it shake you? Would it freak you out a little bit? Would it concern you? Would you say, we can't have him playing on both sides of the football? We can't do it. He already had an injury. It cost him the rest of his 2025. We have to relax. I would not run away from the plan based on this injury, this specific injury, because this specific LCL injury was a non-contact freak injury at camp. So I would not react, not at camp, at practice. I would not react to this specific injury and say, we're pulling the plug on the plan. However, I would say that you need to keep his total snaps at a normal level. What do I mean by that? I wouldn't play him 80 snaps, 85 snaps, and I don't think that's the Jaguars' plan. But they've been talking about having him be a quote-unquote regular player on both sides of the football. I'm not playing him 80 snaps. I'm not giving him 40 snaps and 40 snaps. I'm not going to do it. I would keep him to a normal level. So if you're going to play, let's say you're a wide receiver and you're out there playing 55, 60 snaps, right? I would keep Travis Hunter at 55, 60 snaps. However you want to break that down between the two positions he's going to play, I would keep it. I would keep it to 50 to 60 snaps. I would not overuse him, because whether he's playing 60 snaps all at wide receiver or he's playing 40 and 20, it's still a total of 60 snaps. I would not go above that. I would not go beyond that, because he's going to have more injuries. And the more injuries that he has, it is the more wear and tear on his body. And the more wear and tear, that means more stress on the body. And he's not a big guy, doesn't have a thick frame. The body type concerns me if you're going to run him into the ground. And, the cost that they paid to get him, draft picks and all that, they've got to take care of this guy. So I would not freak out. I would not flip my wig and say, oh, man, he's got the LCL. Forget about it. We can't play him on both sides of the football. To say disaster waiting to happen, yada, yada. But I would certainly make sure that I'm not, playing him 80, 90 snaps a game. I think that would be madness. All right, before we get to story number 4, Chris Chapman jumps in with a $20 super chat. Another Patriots win tonight? Question mark, question mark, question mark. So on Locked On Patriots, I might as well give you this right now because we're about an hour away from the game. Locked On Patriots, I gave my prediction. I'm going to put my prediction out there on Twitter as well after this live stream. I think the Patriots win, but I do think that this game tonight is going to be tougher than people think. I know the spread is 13. I like the Patriots, but I like the Patriots by about 10. I could see a 23-13 kind of game. I hate predicting Thursday night, and thanks for the 20, Chris, by the way, on the super chat. I hate predicting Thursday night football because Thursday night football is just so unpredictable. The short week impacts guys in different ways. So I never know. You never know what you're going to get on Thursday night football. And the fact that the Patriots, they have not had a bye week yet. So, you've already played 10 games and you're going into a short week without a bye. So I think physically they're going to have to fight through this. But I do think they win. I got it 23-13. They can't let the Jets special teams take over this football game because then it could get dangerous and they can't turn the ball over. But I do like the Patriots tonight. All right, story number 4. Joe Burrow is back, kind of, sort of. His practice window of 21 days has been opened up. And according to Zach Taylor, the head coach of Cincy, they want to inch Burrow's way forward. They're not going to rush him back. It sounds like Burrow's going to have at least the next 2 weeks to get practice under his belt. And then maybe, just maybe, they will start to push towards him returning. So I don't think he's back this weekend for sure. I don't think he's back next weekend. The decision for Cincy has to be made by December 1st. They have to make the decision whether or not Joe Burrow's coming back and playing this year by December 1st. So that's a Monday. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to aim for Thanksgiving. Cincinnati has the Thanksgiving primetime game at Baltimore against the Ravens. I think that's going to be the target. I think they're going to target Thanksgiving primetime game at the Ravens, divisional matchup, national television, everybody watching. And the biggest question is really, do you think it's worth it? Do you think it's worth bringing Joe Burrow back? So Cincinnati, they play Pittsburgh this weekend. Then they play the Patriots. If they can beat both Pittsburgh and the Patriots, which I don't think is going to be easy, if Cincinnati can beat Pittsburgh and New England, they will be 5-6. Now, 10 wins might get you into the playoffs in the AFC. It might. Probably going to come down to tiebreakers and all that stuff. So 10 wins might get you in. Well, that means that the Bengals have to go on an epic run because right now they're 3-6. They've got to go 7-1 to get to that 10-win mark. And they've got to beat Pittsburgh, New England in the last 6 games. Their last 6 games, if they can win the next 2 weeks, which is going to be a tall order. Again, Pittsburgh's not easy in the division. The Patriots are not going to be easy. If they can win both of those games, then you fast forward to the last 6 games. And here's who they have. Cincy has Baltimore at Baltimore, Thanksgiving, like I said. They also have to host Baltimore, so they have 2 games left against the Ravens. They have to play at Buffalo. They have to play at Miami. They have to play Arizona and Cleveland. I think it is very unlikely. I think it's very unlikely that you will see Cincinnati finish with 10 wins given their schedule. So if you look at the offensive line, they're 15th in pressure rate. They're 26th in pass block win rate. I think Cincinnati's going to look at this and say, where are we by Thanksgiving? Where are we? Do we have any chance? If they end up losing to Pittsburgh and losing to New England, their season's over. And so you have to decide what you want to do with Joe Burrow. If you lose against Pittsburgh and you lose against the Patriots, I know Joe Burrow wants to come back. I know he wants to be a leader. All that good stuff. But I would be hesitant. I would at least say, okay, we can play him while we're quote unquote in the chase. But once we're out, once we have no shot, we're done. We're moving on. We're not going to continue this. We're absolutely done with this. We're going to sit him the rest of the year. We're going to come back in 2026 with him fully healthy, looking forward to hopefully winning the division. The other thing Cincinnati has to think about is do they hurt their draft pick by throwing Joe Burrow out there? If your season is over and Joe Burrow ends up winning 3 or 4 games at the end of the year, that could be the difference between you having a top 6, 7, 8 pick to maybe being closer to 14, 15. And there's a big difference there. So I would not be rushing back. All right. What are you drinking? I am drinking a Sam Adams Winter White Ale, a 5.7 ABV. It's an absolutely terrific beer. I enjoy it. I enjoy all of you. Appreciate every single one of you here on this Thursday night. And don't forget, as I always say, to help us out, click that thumbs up, whether you're watching on Facebook or watching on YouTube. Don't forget to click that thumbs up. Don't forget to throw a comment in as well. All those things help us with the algorithm. And don't forget to subscribe. Got a couple more super chats in here. Anonymous jumps in and says, I think a Patriots blowout tonight. Thank you for the $10 super chat, Anonymous. It is appreciated. So a blowout. I see a lot of people feeling like the Patriots going to win by a blowout tonight. Again, it's a short week. Thursday night football is weird. It's a divisional matchup. Maybe it's just the paranoia in me, but I would not be surprised. Look, if the Patriots go out there and boat race them, I wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't be shocked. However, I also would not be surprised if this ends up being a little bit uglier than we think, a little bit more physical than we think, and it could be a game through 2.5, 3 quarters. That would not surprise me, but I appreciate you, Anonymous. Charlie with a $10 super chat. Fiddlehead White this evening. Cheers. Nice. Fiddlehead White. Thank you for the $10 super chat. And by the way, before I continue to talk here on this Crafts and Kickoffs podcast, I do want to let all of you know, I'll be going live. Locked On Patriots. We're going to do a live stream after this game tonight. It might take me an hour to get going because I have some obligations I have to do before I can go live for Locked On, but I am planning on going live. Locked On Patriots post-game. We'll react to the Jets and Pats. Amy jumps in. Hey, all, drinking water because I'm working at the stadium. Gray jacket on the Pats sideline following the camera cart. Amy, love you. I'll see you. The plan right now is around Thanksgiving, right? So be safe out there, Amy. Be safe. All right, story number 3. So Brian Daboll gets fired by the Giants. They mishandled Jackson Dart last week. The Athletic, Charlotte Carroll wrote, Dart entered the blue medical tent between the end of the third quarter and the beginning of the fourth. The Giants were driving to extend their 17-10 lead. Dart had played the final snaps of the third quarter. So when Russell Wilson entered the game to start the fourth, it took many by surprise, including some of Jackson Dart's teammates. When Dart finally exited the medical tent after being evaluated, he did not rush out to find his helmet and seamlessly hop back into the huddle as he had twice before this season. Instead, Dart slowly walked down the Giants sideline and into the locker room as the game carried on without him. That was the end of the day for Dart. This was predictable. Jackson Dart getting hurt, Jackson Dart being concussed, unfortunately, was predictable. You don't ever want to see it happen, but this was not surprising whatsoever if you've been watching Jackson Dart since the preseason. He throws his body around like he's a crash test dummy. It's out of control. And, you look at how Brian Daboll and the team handled Jackson Dart going to the blue medical tent against Philadelphia in week 6. We all remember Brian Daboll was freaking out, trying to get Jackson Dart back on the field. The team was fined because of how they reacted to Jackson Dart. And so they just wanted him out there. And so you've got Jackson Dart's reckless approach. And then you also not only have Brian Daboll, I don't think, handling Jackson Dart the right way, but you also have on the field, play call wise, the Giants called more quarterback designed runs than anyone for Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart had more quarterback designed runs than anybody this season in the NFL. And don't forget that Dart started, like week 4 or 5. So he missed the first couple weeks. Russell Wilson started this season. So even though Dart jumped into this season late, he still had more quarterback designed runs called for him than any other quarterback in football. And this is with him throwing his body recklessly around the field. It's like they were just waiting for him to get hurt. They called more designed runs, including 5. They called 5 designed runs last weekend. Dart became the starter in week 4. 3 fewer games than a lot of these quarterbacks, and he had more quarterback designed runs. That to me is madness. It's mismanagement. It's bad play calling. You're waiting. You're waiting for him to get hurt. You're absolutely waiting for a guy to get hurt when you do that. And then you have him play 2 downs after a questionable hit. He wasn't immediately checked. I will give Brian Daboll some credit. He noticed when Dart was getting back out onto the field, said we got to check him out. The other issue is that Brian Daboll, the Giants, they blew 4 double-digit leads on the road. 4. That's really difficult to do, to blow 4 double-digit leads. They had the Denver debacle where they let Denver score 100 points in the fourth quarter. But here's what's interesting. Brian Daboll is gone, but the GM, Joe Schoen, is not. And we go back to Miami's decision to fire the GM, Chris Grier, but keep Mike McDaniel. Now, that looks like a brilliant move after the Dolphins beat the Bills, but I would pump the brakes on that. I'm not necessarily going to jump on the Mike McDaniel train. When you look at this decision to fire Daboll but keep Joe Schoen, it's confusing. It's a half measure, and I hate half measures. Fire everybody. Fire the GM, fire the head coach, start over. Fire the head coach, fire the GM, get a new GM, and let that new GM pick a new head coach. But right now, it sounds like the Giants, according to their statement, they're going to let Joe Schoen pick the next head coach. I remind all of you that Joe Schoen was the GM that picked Brian Daboll back in 2022. So the guy who picked Daboll, the coach you just fired, you're going to give him another opportunity to pick the next head coach. How much sense does that make? By the way, while Joe Schoen's been the GM, the New York Giants win percentage is .336. So the GM, under his watch, you've won less than 34% of your games. You just fired the head coach that he hired, but you're going to keep him around. The Giants are heading into year 5 with Joe Schoen. Heading into year 5, they're currently 2-8. Look how he's handled the quarterback situation. The Daniel Jones situation, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, then drafting Jackson Dart. And he gets to hire the next guy. And what's maybe even worse is the way the Giants handled this. So the Giants, they release a statement saying that they've let go of Brian Daboll. No Joe Schoen. He doesn't even comment in this statement, which is weird. The guy that hired the head coach doesn't comment about firing the head coach. And there's no press conference. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine firing the head coach and not having a press conference? Joe Schoen, the GM who is staying on, doesn't even have to answer questions. He's going to answer questions when the season is over. By that point, who even cares? So keeping Joe Schoen is weird. Not having him really comment is even stranger. And not having a press conference at all about firing your head coach is taking zero accountability as an organization. What are the Giants doing? I don't know. Let's get to story number 2. So Brian Daboll was fired. I think that Matt LaFleur is on the hot seat. And I know some people don't think he should be on the hot seat. I was watching Greg Olson over the past day or two in an interview, and he said, people who think that Matt LaFleur should be on the hot seat, that, it's crazy talk or whatever. I totally disagree. Matt LaFleur should absolutely right now be on the hot seat. Yes, the Packers are 5-3-1, but they are 3rd in the NFC North. They are the 7th seed in the NFC. They've had some weird games, man. They've had some unexpected losses, some terrible losses. They lost to Cleveland. You're the Packers. You're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. You cannot be losing to the Browns, especially the way they lost to the Browns. They lost at Cleveland. They had that tie at Dallas, 40-40, and we all remember how that thing ended. Matt LaFleur looked like he was clueless. He's calling a wide receiver screen as one of his final plays with no timeouts. His quarterback, Jordan Love, looked lost. That's also on the head coach. So you lose at Cleveland. You got that weird tie, how that game ended at Dallas. You somehow survived Arizona, probably should have lost that game. And then you lost to the Carolina Panthers at home. in Green Bay. And then Monday Night Football this past week against Philadelphia, atrocious offense, which I'll get into in a minute. So yes, Matt LaFleur should be on the hot seat. You're 5-3-1. You're the 7th seed in the NFC. You lost to Cleveland. You tied Dallas. You lost to Carolina. Your offense didn't show up against Philly. On top of that, the clock management, the play calling from LaFleur has not been good enough. The Dallas situation, but also he punted against Philly in the fourth quarter, down 3-0. He punted from the Philadelphia 40-yard line. Imagine punting from the Philadelphia 40-yard line in a 3-zip game. And it backfired. And Matt LaFleur, I do think he's a good offensive mind. I do think that he's a good offensive coordinator. But his offense, the results, they're disappointing. And there are 3 losses. In the Packers, 3 losses. They've scored 13, 16, and 10 points. That can't happen. When you have the talent that they have offensively, and you've got the young quarterback that you paid hundreds of millions of dollars, and your head coach lives and dies by his offensive play calling, you could not lose your 3 games while scoring 13 points, 16 points, and 10 points. The Packers defense is doing what they got to do. They did it again against Philly. Defensively, they're fine. And each of those 3 losses, by the way, were 3-point losses. So you scored 13 points, 16 points, and 10 points in your 3 losses, and all 3 of those losses were by 3 points. That's on Matt LaFleur. Warren Sharp, a great follow on Twitter, he posted LaFleur's play calling against Philadelphia this past Monday night on 2nd and 6 or more through the third quarter. Okay, so when the Packers had a 2nd and 6 or more through the first 3 quarters of that game, Matt LaFleur called 5 running back runs, 4 quarterback dropbacks. So 2nd and 6 or longer, 56% of the time on those types of plays, Matt LaFleur ran the football. Those running back runs averaged 2.4 yards per carry. That is the definition of play calling insanity. 2nd and 6 and longer, you keep running the ball. You're running more than passing, and your running game in those situations, you're not even getting 2.5 yards per carry. And because of those poor second down decisions, as Warren Sharp pointed out, the Packers averaged 9.1 yards to go on 3rd down through the third quarter. You are shooting yourself in the foot as an offense because of your play calling, which goes down to Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff. So he's mishandled some in-game strategy situations. His play calling and his offense has not been nearly good enough this year. Sheil Kapadia posted that the Packers offense, the last 2 games, they've had 2 touchdowns on 17 possessions. 20 total points. Where's the offense? They lost to Carolina and Green Bay. You thought they would bounce back. They would show some life. They'd be more aggressive. They would put, more on Jordan Love. And they didn't do any of that. They played conservatively. They kicked themselves in the butt. And you had Moro Ajomo, a defensive lineman for Philly. If it's not as bad as, as I've already said, you've got a defensive lineman from the Eagles on Monday night, loud and clear, calling out a 4th and 1 play. He was calling out what Green Bay was going to do. He literally screamed, inside zone this way, inside zone this way. He knew the play call. That was from ESPN's Ben Solak. So yes, Matt LaFleur is on the hot seat. He should be on the hot seat when the expectations are Super Bowl or bust, and that's where they were with the Packers. This was a team that you would think was going to get to the Super Bowl or at least get to the NFC Championship game, and they still might. But right now they're the 7th seed. And I asked this question before the season kicked off. Matt LaFleur is a good coach, but is Matt LaFleur the coach that's going to get them to that next level? Is he going to be a Super Bowl winning coach? And I don't think he's been very good this year. The front office went all in. They traded for Micah Parsons. They gave Jordan Love the money. They drafted wide receivers. Everybody wanted them to draft wide receivers. They drafted wide receivers. They drafted Matthew Golden in the first round. And you're not scoring points, and you're losing to teams that you shouldn't lose to. So, yeah, they've got to get their act together. If they don't, then I could see him being gone. The expectations are different in Green Bay, and they should be, given the talent and given where they've been leading into this season. All right, what are you drinking? I've got the Winter White Ale from Sam Adams. Appreciate every single one of you. Getting ready for Patriots, Jets. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, let's wrap it up here with an absolutely loaded Week 11. We got a lot of football games that should be good this weekend. Plenty of really good matchups. I think it's the best NFL weekend that we've had in a while. You've got Tampa against Buffalo. This game is fascinating to me. Tampa coming off the loss against the Patriots in Tampa. Buffalo coming off a loss on the road to Miami. Who thought the Bills were going to lose to the Dolphins last week? The Dolphins looked like they were absolutely dead. And they manhandled the Buffalo Bills. So you've got two teams who are not accustomed to losing. They lost last weekend, now facing each other. Buffalo has to respond. After that game last weekend, they have to respond this weekend. And, look, Buffalo's got some problems. Their defense is not very good. They're weak at safety. Their cornerbacks are not awesome. Far from it. They've struggled against the run. So Buffalo's got some issues defensively. They also have some issues offensively. They don't have a wide receiver that scares you. I've said that multiple times this year. So, it's James Cook. And if you limit James Cook, it's like this offense can't do enough on a consistent basis. So Buffalo has to respond. Tampa's defense is good, but Tampa is banged up. So I think Tampa-Buffalo is a very interesting game. Then we've got the Chiefs against the Broncos. The Chiefs are 5-4. So they lose this game. They actually fall to 500 10 games into the season. Now, I'm not necessarily freaking out about Kansas City. I've told you I think Kansas City is going to end up, being back, and they'll figure things out, and they'll find a way to get into the playoffs. And then once they get in, they're going to be dangerous. But this is an AFC West battle between the Broncos and the Chiefs. The Broncos defense has been really good. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes has been really good. They ran into a snag against Buffalo, had the bye week last weekend. But you get the AFC West battle. Kansas City right now is on the outside looking in. If the playoffs started tonight, Kansas City would not be in the playoffs. They're the 8th seed right now. Josh Simmons, left tackle. He is expected to return and be playing in this game. Bo Nix, man, roller coaster. Bo Nix, he could have 3 of the worst quarters that you'll ever see in your life, and then the fourth quarter, he'll light it up somehow. But on balance, he has not been good this year. And so I think Denver has a Bo Nix question, but the Denver defense is good. Then we got Detroit against Philly. Dan Campbell has now taken over the play calling on the offensive side. Pretty interesting, right? So Dan Campbell calling the plays. Jameson Williams, the run game has improved with Campbell calling the plays. When you look at this game for Detroit, they're going to be in Philly for Sunday Night Football. That is a very challenging situation, right? Philly just had a nice win. Their offenses look clunky in stretches, as we know. A.J. Brown is continuing to talk. This time, not so much, on social media, even though it kind of was on social media because it was released. He was on some kind of Twitch stream or whatever the hell. He's not backing down. He's frustrated. The offense has been frustrating this year for Philly. They've been very up and down. And you're in Philly for Sunday Night Football against the Lions. So that's a very interesting matchup. And then the matchup of the weekend. This could be the NFC Championship game. The Seahawks versus the Rams. This should be a fantastic game. An absolutely fantastic game. Matthew Stafford is playing like an MVP. Sam Darnold is not that far behind him. Sean McVay has pretty much, changed his offense over the past 4 or 5 weeks, playing with 3 tight ends. You've got the Sean McVay offensive brain against the Mike McDonald defensive brain. NFC West battle, Seattle Rams should be an awesome game. An absolutely awesome game. Speaking of game, we got the Pats and Jets coming up. I'll get you out here right at 7:30. Appreciate every single one of you for joining me live tonight. Appreciate everybody that checks the show out on demand as well. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Enjoy your drinks. Be safe. Enjoy the football. We will be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. sharp right here on YouTube. Until then, be well.